Mm-hmm.
All right, there we go. It's working now, y'all.
Yay. I just see your picture.
All right, y'all. So just mute for me, and we are live. All right, give me 1 second, y'all. I just want to make sure that we live. Always like to check just to see, because sometimes. There we go. So we are live. All right, welcome back, guys. So sorry about the wait. I should say, had some extreme technical difficulties with my computer. I don't know what was going on with it, but thank God I fixed it. It's fixed. We're here. We're here. We're here. We're here. We're here. A Better Me Equals a Better We podcast episode number 5. Um, Thank you for sticking with us this long, for tuning in for this conversation about generational curses with a slash, because we're going to talk about generational behaviors, right? And I brought 2 people along with me to talk about this topic and really dive into it, because I feel like this whole generational behaviors, generational curses is something that we all deal with. Like, I don't care what your ethnicity is, your background, where you're from. Like, everybody has a generational behavior, or what some people will call a generational curse, something that they would like to change. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce my panelist number 1, ladies first. Alicia, why don't you introduce yourself and tell our viewers a little bit about yourself?
Hey, my name is Alicia. I'm from Brooklyn. You know, well, I don't even know where to start. It's like so much, but yeah, that's all I could think about right now.
Alicia's from Brooklyn. Y'all know I always gotta have at least somebody from Brooklyn because I'm from Brooklyn. Alicia's also a mommy. Um, definitely when it comes when you talk about generational behaviors, things of that sort, people that are parents are typically really keen on that because that affects, your child. That's a key factor. That was one of the key reasons, besides the fact that I know that she's a very intelligent person. Mommies are really particular about what they teach their babies. So
Mm-hmm.
and then our second panelist, without further ado, Smitty, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Hey, what's going on, listeners out there? Smitty, cuz Trey right there. Love him to death. I'm from Harlem, New York. Represent. I'm here to give you some wisdom. Short and sweet.
Dope, super dope, super dope. And to be completely honest with you guys, like he said, given some wisdom. Smitty is actually, a little older than I am. Well, I'm gonna say a little older, but Smitty's a little older than I am, and very intelligent. very intelligent, one of the most intelligent people that I know. So I thought that it would be great to have him on and to discuss this topic with you guys. And if you guys are on, if you guys are in, share this video. You know, before we even dive into it, share this video because if you find this useful, I'm pretty sure that somebody along your timeline will find this useful, and this information will be beneficial, and then they can chime in. You know, like I always tell you guys, this is not a platform where I get up here and I get a bunch of panelists and we tell you guys what to do and this is how you do this and this is how you do that. I want to hear what you guys have to say about it, because you guys might help me change the behavior in my family. So, you know, share this video. Let's get as many people on as we can so we can all talk about this, learn, and grow together. So just diving right into it, right? Generational curses. It's something that we hear a lot, you know, and I just feel like when you say something like curse, for me, it almost sounds unreal, like it's like magical, mystical, like it's a curse, like somebody walked on like your great 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 grandmother and sprinkled some dust. It was like, or like in the movie Holes when the old lady said that the family would be cursed and you know whatever, like, and then another very intelligent person that I know had brought it to my attention, like it's not necessarily a curse, but more so a behavior, right? Behaviors that are passed down from one generation to another generation, and then the cycle continues, right? So when we look at generational curses, we're going to be looking at an article that the title of the article is How Generational Curses Affect My Love Life. So your generational curses may not affect just your love life. It affects more than, you know, just that. Um, And when we talk about these negative behaviors, Alicia, I'll start with you. Like, how or do negative behaviors of like can they affect people on a day to day? Like when I look at like let's say a behavior that was passed down, you know, maybe from my father and my father's father. Like, is that a real thing where I can say like this behavior was passed down for me from my father, my father's father? This is just how it is, and does it affect people like just in a regular day to day life?
I think that it does because it's something that you're accustomed to seeing. It's something, you know, like it's a tradition, like you think they did it, so it's okay for me to do it. And this is how it's supposed to be. So I do think,
Right. And I agree. I think that like we see that a lot with a lot of people where it's just like, well, this is just how things are. Like this is just my point of view on this. This is how I've seen it done. And like when we look at generational curses, generational behaviors, right? I like to even look at it from a broad perspective. Like if you read this article, and this article can be found on people.com, it gives a list of different behaviors or what people consider to be curses. And some of those things are health conditions. So like diabetes, you know, lung cancer, like things of that sort. And then when I look at it, I'm like, you're not cursed with lung cancer. If you think about it, everybody probably smoked. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, and if there's something in your bloodline that contributes to that, that makes it easier for you to get it, then that means that you have to live a certain way to make sure that you don't, you know, wind up like that. So Smitty, like, would you say that it's safe to say that people do what they see, like from past generations?
Well, to elaborate more on that, it depends because I would feel that it's like a learned experience. What you see, like monkey see, monkey do. So if everybody's doing it, you think it's the norm until you get older, until you realize that it's not the norm. So it could fluctuate to many different ways. If you grow up in a household where it's only one parent, you think that's a fine thing. If you go in a household with a married couple and married parents or whatever, you think that's the right thing. So it varies from different households as well, and it triggers down to the kids, and then next to their kids, then their kids. So everybody's going on what they see and what they hear and what's in their face as well.
Right. Like, and I totally, I can agree with that 1,000,001%. Like, I don't remember if I said this on one of my previous podcasts. I think it was the one about screen time. like we can tell our kids to do whatever we want to tell them to do. Like, and I have 2 children myself. We can tell them to do, and I was once a kid, like, we can tell them to do what they want, but majority of the times kids do what they see and not what you say, right? So if you tell your kid don't do this, in the back of their mind, they're probably thinking, as soon as I get old enough, I'm gonna do this. Like, I'm not gonna do it now. So I definitely do agree. Like, when people see a 2-family home or see a broken home, it makes them sort of okay, you know, with a specific dynamic based off of what they've seen. So, Alicia, do you think that certain behaviors that we see passed down from generations, let's use the broken home, for example, right? Do you think things like that can cause like lifelong trauma?
Definitely, because it's something that it would be lifelong because you're just passing it down. That's like the same thing like, oh, my mother didn't hug me, so I'm not hugging my kids. That's traumatizing, you know, and you don't realize it until you start doing it. And you don't even realize you're doing it until you start seeing it in your kids. So then you be like, oh, then it's something else.
Right. And then at that point, we probably trying to play cleanup, like, you know, like, oh, snap, like, you know, my kid is doing this, they're exhibiting this behavior. And then it kind of, I think, creates a surreal moment where you realize maybe, like you said, like how much you didn't hug your kid. And now you start like looking back on like how much you weren't hugged. Or I think for some people, it even works in the reverse. So like now when you have a kid, you like, I'm not doing none of that. Be it that broomstick over the head, my kid will never know what that's like. Like, cause and my parents, they make jokes about this all the time, and they would tell us growing up, and me and Alicia, we actually grew up together, like in the same neighborhood and stuff like that. And so our parents would like make like, well, you got it a little worse than I did, but you know, our parents would make jokes like, well, when I was younger, like we used to get it like this, and y'all crying about this little, you know, little baby whooping y'all getting in these punishments and stuff. And then nowadays, like I know a lot of people that have kids, and it's like, do people even chastise their kids anymore? And I think it has a lot to do with what they went through as a kid. So they kind of try to change that behavior and say, you know what, I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm not, you know, I don't want to go down that route. So do you think that, like Smitty, so do you think that these generational behaviors, like these behaviors that are passed down, whether it's broken homes or marriages, or I got another topic that, or another behavior that I want to throw out there, but I'm a little nervous to say it because I feel like this particular one, I'm gonna say it after I ask you this question, but I know this particular one is gonna hit home for a lot of people. But when we look at these behaviors, do you think that they're passed down because of a lack of knowledge? Like, do you think some of these things, like even alcoholism, drug abuse, like these things are shown to kids at an early age and that behavior is picked up? So do you think that it's picked up because of a lack of knowledge, or is it something else?
It could be lack of knowledge and also portraying of what they see, as I spoke earlier. And with that being said, kids are like sponges. You know, they watch what we do, like you said earlier as well. They see, they watch, and everything else. But the retrospect of that, it could to a point where you could have 2 parents on the same level of everything going straight, and the kids still could go to the opposite side because they follow their uncle or their aunt or grandmother. So it don't always have to be the parents exactly. It could be the village as well. The village play a big part of everything. And now we have situations where parents want to be friends with their kids. You know, we grew up, we couldn't be friends while playing. We couldn't say certain things. Now these parents now want to eat, drink, smoke, dance, party with them, you know? And that goes where they're only 15 years away from each other in age. So they listen to the same music. So they're on the same level. They got some parents who talk to their kids about these situations. So now the kids feel like they're grown. So now they're on the same level. So that's where you got to the point where these kids feel entitlement. Just because I work hard, you got to work hard yourself. But they feel entitlement because they be given everything. Because when we was young, we wasn't given everything like that. So we said, we're going to do something different. And sometimes about spoiling our kids could also interact with the behavior of how they go be when they get older as well too.
I like what you said about people wanting to be their kid's friend. I hear that a lot, especially from a lot of the grandparents. Again, I have 2 kids, and like my dad, he always say like, listen, your mother, she want to be our friend. I don't want to be our friend. Like, and now that we're older and we're adults, my dad is a little bit okay. He's okay with being our friend now because we're adults. Because he, in his mind, he understood that there were certain things that we weren't going to understand as children. So he needed to set that boundary of do what I say until you understand why you need to do what it is I'm telling you to do. And now we could be friends. So, Alicia, what would you say to that? Like, how do you feel about the notion of like new age parents wanting to be their child's friend, and how does that affect the behavior going forward? Like, how do you think that'll affect the generations going forward?
Oh, because then they think they could do what I could do. So now you think you're too grown. So we're not on the same level. But it is true. Kids think that they're, because like that's a generational curse. Parents have kids. My mother was a teenage mom. I was a teenage mom. I'm not gonna have a teenage, but that's what was seen. And yeah, he can't be my friend.
Right. Because now when you're friends, a lot of the things that you do is made acceptable. And it's almost a little bit harder to chastise, right? Because now it's like you get a lot more, talking back, because it's like, bro, like it, my friend can give me advice, but they can't talk to me like my parent. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, you can give me a little advice, but now when it's like, yo, now you need to do this. Wait a minute, bro. I got a father. His name is Trey. I'm gonna need you to
And
relax. Like,
that goes back to it, like, how can you be my friend and I'm trying to tell you to do something and you be like, we both doing the same thing. You can't tell me something when we doing the same thing. No.
Exactly.
and I think that this is very important to the conversation as far as like how we parent our kids, how the parenting is going, because they are the next generation, right? Like what we're doing right now, this podcast episode that we're doing right now, the job that we have, what we do on a daily basis, this is the framework for us passing the baton, right? And then at one point, it's going to be a wrap for us. It's going to be their show, right? And I just told somebody this recently. I was like, at what point are the grandparents going to going to accept that they're big mama now, right? Like I hear a lot of people like, oh, well, grandma not here. We used to go to grandma's house all the time. Well, I'm pretty sure they went to her grandmother's house and her grandmother's house before that. So now at what point are you going to accept that you big mama? At what point are we going to accept that we're the aunts and uncles now and the parents? And we're, because we have to accept that in order to pass that baton down to our kids so the tradition can continue, right? So when we look at generational behaviors, it's not always negative, right? Some of these generational behaviors are positive. Like I miss those Saturday cookouts and stuff like that. And a lot of people talk about division amongst their families. And I just feel like because the baton wasn't passed down properly, or it's a possibility that a group or a generation didn't accept their role or they weren't ready to accept their role, right? So, I mean, I'm not sure. I don't know exactly what it is. I can't speak for the mass of, families, but there was definitely a gap there. So I feel like we have to accept our roles, like where we are, grandparents, you big mama now. If you a great grandparent, then you probably really big mama or whatever. So we just got to accept our role so that we can pass that baton properly and keep those positive generational behaviors going, right? So now that we kind of talked about like what a generational curse is or whatever, or what some people consider to be a generational curse, I think that it would be very beneficial for us to discuss like the next step in identifying a generational curse, right? So the author suggests that people should do a genealogram, and a genealogram is basically like you draw your family tree, and you would do yourself, your parents' parents, and go up and down the line of the people in your family. And she suggests that you should go about 3 to 4 generations back and look for a specific behavior and see if you can identify it in all of those generations. So do you think, Smitty, do you think that this is or this will be an effective way to identify a generational behavior?
It depends, because if the person is trying to stop the curse, how can he or she rectify and try to teach someone else what's going on? So it starts from there as well too. But if you got a good mindset and you understand what's going on, because we grew up looking at everything's fine and dandy, bright to lights is good. But when you actually get to grown up age and being an adult, you see like, wow, things is different. And times have changed. You can't do what you did back in the days now, especially these kids. But these kids is not about that life. They soft. I think they soft. I don't, a spade is a spade. It is what it is. But to piggyback, you gotta find yourself. You gotta go within yourself and understand how you're gonna go out of it. Now, the questions that you said about the diaphragm, whatever, is a good way to find out what's right, what's wrong, and what you see what you did was right, was wrong as well, and see and dissect what can you improve. And by you doing that, by dissecting it, you can see when you're wrong yourself, and you can pass on to your kids so they will do the same thing as you.
Right, right. And that's the key, being able to, when we talk about identifying it, not only should you, see how far it travels, but also like, do I have it, right? Like, do I have it? Am I going to pass this to my kid? Like, or not even to your kid, because,
exactly.
Smitty also said earlier, I might not be following my parents. Like, I know for me, my first role model was my older brother. Like, that's like, I wanted to be him. Like, I want to be him when I grow up. Like, and it wasn't because I grew up in a 2-family home, but my parents were just very busy, like, trying to provide. My dad worked overnights, and, I go to school during the day, so he sleeps. Sometimes I don't catch him when he come in. So it wasn't like a situation where I didn't have anybody. They just were really busy. So for me, the closest thing, the most tangible thing for me was my brother. Like, so like Smitty said, like, it might not be the parent, so we got to identify behaviors within ourselves that we might pass down to somebody that's looking up to us, like Superman or Superwoman. Like, we don't know who's looking at us and thinking we're like the best thing since sliced bread or cold cuts. Like, so we really gotta, look within ourselves and make sure that we're checking in and taking account for all of the behaviors that we could possibly pass to the next generation. And when we look at these behaviors, right, or what some people will call curses, is it safe to say, and I know we touched on this a little bit, but Alicia, is it safe to say that a sickness is a generational curse?
I don't think so, but then it's like a in between, depending on the kind of sickness, because like obesity, that can be a sickness that's passed down. You see, this is what we eating for dinner every Sunday, so now this is what you cook every Sunday. But let's say it could be something else that is just you the only one in your family that got cancer now. It's like, it depends on the situation.
Right. I think it definitely does. And when we think about, using that genealogram that the author suggests and going back 3 or 4 generations, I think for that particular instance, I think that would be crucial, right? Where we can go back and say, I'm gonna look at my family tree, like, okay, well, maybe this person, my dad had, diabetes, and then I go back up and maybe his mom had diabetes, and I go back up and maybe her mom had diabetes. And then now we can kind of trace that and say, okay, well, this is something that is kind of traveling. What can I do to stop it right here? right? And then, like you said, you have those one-off situations where you might be the first one with it, right? So now the mindset has to be for us when we're thinking about passing that baton, because we're not going to be here forever, right? A spoiler alert, we're not going to be here forever, right? So we're just preparing the way for who's to come after us, right? And we want to make sure that, like, if I'm at work and I'm working at a fast food restaurant, like I can't leave the restaurant dirty and then leave, and then the next shift got to come in and they got to clean it all up, right? So that's how it is with our families. Like, we're not going to be here forever, but I got to make sure that when my shift is over, I don't leave my son no mess like that. He got to clean up and then try to do better on top of that, right? So if it is something and you're the first person that may have encountered something, we have to be able to identify that and say, all right, I may be the first one that struggled with this, but we have to cut it like right now. Like, we're gonna cut it right now before it even gets too far. Like, so I'm gonna ask both of you guys this question, and I'm gonna start with you, Smitty. What are some common generational behaviors, right? And just kind of elaborate on the ones that you saw. Give me two common generational behaviors, and then just a little bit of background about both.
Well, one common generated behavior that goes around is make it work. You know, we always taught that. What we have, make it work. You know, I don't blame my parents for not teaching me about different things like stocks and bonds and ownership and all that, because they didn't know. Because, you know, when they was raising me, they just started as well. There's no pamphlet how to be a parent. And the second one is how to turn your left cheek or right cheek. Suck it up if someone says turn wrong to you. Like, no, you can't do that. You've been too quiet too long. You have to say something, but you gotta know when right to say it and how to say it. Because you can't be disrespectful about it. You gotta be on point with it. And that's another thing that plays part with us. We might same bracket somewhat. As we get older, how we interact with other people, because our parents told us, don't say nothing, be quiet, whatever. But now this next generation, I give them this. They got some heart, but they lack common sense. Me and you talked about this before. They lack common sense. They got heart, but they lack common sense. They don't know when to switch the light switch up or on. So it's like, it's really hard to like dissect and get you straight to the point where to start from. But it takes a group of the past, the present, and the future to get this right.
I like the way that you put that, like past, present, future, because it's a collaborative effort, right? We can't just put it on one generation and say, this is the problem, clean it up, it's your show now, you got the keys. Like, that's not fair. Like, you know what I'm saying? You gave me the keys, and using the restaurant analogy, you gave me the keys or whatever, it's my shift, and the whole restaurant dirty. Like, it's not right. Like, you get what I'm saying? So it is a collaborative effort where the elder statesmen have to chime in. The people that are in the middle, that are running the show, you got to chime in. And then the next generation, they have to give their input because they're up next, right? So, you know, I think two of the behaviors that you highlighted were definitely very key, like turning the other cheek, because I do think that we get that a lot these days. And even the adverse of that with these kids, like, they not even turning a cheek. Like, you can't even smack the cheek. Like, they wilding for all types of respect, like, you know, like they got something to prove. So definitely, like, and even you know, to make it
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
Well, also too, like these kids, well, I go back to the common sense thing as well. They do things and react later. When we was growing up, we thought about it, then we did it. That's another thing that plays a part too.
Right. So sometimes it's really a lack of critical thinking. So the turning the other cheek, and then also one that I really like, that I really see a lot, is the make it work. Right? How many times have, especially on Facebook, right? I go on my Facebook right now and scroll down, and somebody been making it work for 9 years, and they got a sub. They post a sub every day. Like, if your man don't do this, you might as well just leave him. well, if your girl ain't such and such and such, then you ain't got the right one. Like, but yet you've been with this person for so long, and because you've been taught or trained or you've seen people be in dysfunctional situations, whether it be your parents or someone close to you, like you've seen that. Now, guess what? You're in this dysfunctional situation, and guess who's watching? The next generation. So guess who has a high probability of being in a dysfunctional situation? Your child, right? So when we look at these behaviors, we gotta
Exactly.
you're right. Like we got to be able to identify these behaviors within ourselves because somebody's always watching. Like somebody's always watching, whether it be our children or someone else who's a part of the next generation that may look up to you, right? So Alicia, before I go to you, I want to go to our
One,
quickly.
like back to what you just said, why you have to recognize it. But some people they won't accept it. So just because, then that's the
True.
problem, because you might have a problem, but you're not accepting it. You think what you're doing is okay. So what people telling you is not okay. And you be like, no, it's fine. So now that's where the problem, you're passing down that attitude, you're passing down that behavior and all of that. So it's just a continuing.
Right, like a continuous cycle. Like and then it's just going to
Exactly.
keep going and keep going. So I just want to go to our comments really quickly. Uh, if I missed some of your comments, I'm sorry, guys. I know I said this in the last live video. For some reason, the comments, some of them don't come up until after the video is over. So I'll reply to all of the comments that I see. Key already said, yes, it's hard to change, especially if it's all you know and see. She also said, I love your dad, and I know he loves you too. Diamond said, hello, Alicia. That was a valid point. Key also said, nowadays we have to be friends with our kids to an extent because they need to be able to open up to us. We need to know what's going on with them in this crazy world. Dominique says, that's good. A generation not ready to accept the role. And Key also said that she agreed with one of Smitty's points. And he also said, yes, we have to be aware of ourselves, right? So we got to be self-aware. So Alicia, going back to the question that we were just diving into, like what are two, for you, what are two common generational curses or behaviors, and just elaborate on the two.
Like for one, it's like apologizing. People feel like they don't have to apologize, but everything would be swept under the rug. Like, okay, let's say like my grandmother, whatever she did to my mother, she would never apologize. So that's like a behavior. My mother do something to me, I'm waiting for an apology that I'll never receive. So that's another behavior. And divorce is another one. Okay, my grandfather divorced my grandmother. Now my mother divorced my dad. I'm breaking up with my boyfriend because this is what, you don't see. It could go.
Right. And so and that's really it's really a fact. Like I know one of the things that I feel like is a really interested generational behavior. I would say in the minority community, at least the part of the community that I've been exposed to. So I don't want to speak for the entire minority community. But marriage seems to be something that's just not being passed down through generations. Like I know a lot of people that don't want to get married. They don't have any intention on being married. And it's just like, people get with people and they're like, I would love to have kids with you. Well, you don't want to marry them? Like, a kid is a lifelong commitment. So, so what views on marriage is so much more different now. I'm not trying to force anybody into marriage, but I'm just saying how they go hand in hand. Like, if I can commit a kid with you for the rest of forever, like, why would one come without the other, especially when you wind up not being with the person? There are a lot of struggles that come with a divided house. I should say. There are a lot of struggles that come with that, whether you're the baby mother or the baby father. Like everybody has their struggles. Now, some people are able to do it and it works, and stuff like that. But now when the next generation comes up, what do they see? You get what I'm saying? What do they believe? How many people do you have a limit in your mind? How many people are able to come around your kid? Like what type of things are your kids seeing? Because I think even the whole monogamous thing or even cheating is a generational behavior. Like I know for me,
because now that they'll think that it's okay.
Right.
So you starting a pattern
Exactly.
again. I see my mom cheating on my dad. Now I get a boyfriend or I get a girlfriend and now I'm cheating on them. And I'm like, it's okay.
Right. Like they cheat, I cheat, like it is what it is. Or let's say you're a girl or a guy and you have two different parents in two different places, and I'm a guy and I stay with my dad, and every week he bringing a different girl over. Oh, this is what being a man is about. So now when I get old enough, I'm bringing 7 different girls over every day of the week because this is what being an adult is, right? So like the reason why I'm bringing up all of these different things is because these are common things that I saw as a kid, that I know a lot of the people before me saw as a kid, and we just weren't taught better. Like we just weren't taught better. And I feel like a lot of it was because that's what they knew and that's what they were comfortable with. But now at this point, because information is so available, I feel like we have the opportunity to now take the hand that was dealt to us and all of the behaviors that we may have inherited and say, you know what, I don't want that. Like, this is not for me. Like, this is not for me. This is not for my child. And this is not going to continue in my family because now I have the say so. Like, I'm not sitting at the kiddie table no more, right? Like, I don't have to go in the room because grown people talking. Like, I'm the grown people now, right? So now I have the say so. I have the say so. I have the keys to the car. I control which direction the family is going to go in. So we have to accept that role.
You do have to accept that, but sometimes it can skip. Let's say it could go from your dad to your kid because your kid is watching what your dad is doing, even though what you're doing is right.
True.
So then it just skipped a generation, but it's still continuing.
Right. That's good too. And that's why we all, to Smitty's point earlier, past, present, and future, it's a collaborative effort, right? So even though I'm driving the car, I still got the past in the back seat, and then the present, they in the passenger, and I'm showing them how to drive. Like I'm showing them. So even though it's still a collaborative effort for our family, to our generation.
I think so, but like you can only break your chain. You can't break your dad's or your sister's or like your kid. You only can break your curse. So only you could deal with that problem to make it better.
True.
Right. I like that thought. Like I really do like that.
That's
thought.
true. She's elaborate. She's exactly right. Like you have to break your own chain and follow suit. That everybody coincide and follow the ride as well. Like Alicia said, the chain, you have your chain. You can't break somebody else's chain. But somebody looking at your chain, they're like, you know what, I'm just saying like him. And that's how you started.
No, that's good. That was good right there. Like to really put that in perspective and say, as much as I want to say, let's say I have a relative that has an addiction, I want to stop it where you are, right? Because let's say this relative has an addiction, the person before them had an addiction, the person before them had an addiction, and it just stopped with me, right? So I broke mine, but like you guys said, like I can't break my relative's addiction. Like the one before them, like that person can't break that person's addiction, right? So I think that that's really good because I think sometimes we get stressed out, or we have the possibility of stressing ourselves out trying to break a chain that's really not meant for us to break, right? Like, or it's really like we can be there for that person, provide assistance, but we can't break a chain. Each individual has to make that conscious effort to say, yo, like it stops here, like it stops.
You have
right
to start a new link, start your own instead of continuing what's been happening. Start your own.
You talking right now. I'm
Elaborating on what she said, it makes a lot of sense. You can't dictate what somebody else's future is. You can dictate yours. And you can dictate your own kids. You got 2 little ones. We all got kids on this panel right now. You start what you do for your generation. And what they do, they might like it. I love it. You like it? I love it. It is what it is. But we only need to worry about ourselves. And that's our problem is we take on everybody else's problems and issues, which is not wrong with that, and we put it onto ourselves. And we get mad when they don't follow our suit. Everybody got their own mindset, their own way of life, fork in the road, left, right, straight. And how you go is how you go. We're all going to reach the same destination at the end.
And that's a fact, because there's one thing that we all promise. So we all going to reach that same destination. But if you watching this right now, I need y'all to hashtag start a new link, right? Like if I was preaching right now, if you don't know, I am a preacher. But if I was preaching right now, I would say, look at your neighbor and say, I would say, look at your neighbor and say, start a new link, right? So I need y'all to hashtag in the comments, start a new link, right? Like that's where we go. We start in a new link, right?
And it may be hard because sometimes to start that new link, you have to break off certain family members, certain friends. Like we're not going to continue to do this. So you have to be able to accept, like I'm cutting everybody off, and if I have to be by myself, then I have to be by myself. But that's not where I want to be.
Right. Like you can't be a part of this chain no more. Like you said, I got to start a new link. So I might have to detach from the rest of and start something new. So it comes with a lot. Like it really comes with a lot. Change comes with a lot, especially when you're talking about change throughout generations, right? Now, one topic that I really want to, or one generational behavior that I really want to get into with you guys that I feel like really affects a lot of people, right? In a positive way, depending on how the behavior was passed down, and in a negative way. Why is it that I feel like the most crucial generational behaviors is money, right? Our relationship with money, right? So, Alicia, I want you to talk to me about, like, from your standpoint, how do you feel like us as minorities, like, I feel like across the board for the most part, like, it's something that's passed down in generations that now, because information is so available, we're starting to realize, like, wait, why I never heard about credit? Like, why I never, like, I knew about credit cards, like, I knew they existed, but I didn't really know all of this about this, right? So where do you think the gap is, or the gap was? Because now I think we're all at a point where we're learning a lot more about money and trying to teach this to our kids. I would hope so. But what do you think that the gap was in the past generations, and why is it that this knowledge of money wasn't passed down?
Okay, so I would say from your parents and your parents' parents, because they don't want, like, we knew we was in a struggle, but we didn't know we was in a struggle. They try to hide it. So that's like, okay, so we didn't know my mother had credit cards. That's something, we just thinking, okay, we doing this. But she was in debt, but we didn't know. So now we don't know about debt now. Now we just thinking, okay, I got my card. My mother used to swipe it. I'm swiping and getting my bill now. And I'm like, oh shit, how was she doing this? Nobody was teaching me about this. They didn't add, like, and now it's because it's so, like, I just realized, speaking to my mother, that years ago, they got stimulus payments. I never knew that. My kid was asking me, where's his stimulus payment?
What?
Exactly.
It's like, this is like, because now knowledge is so, people know about these things now. So now, like, you have to teach your kids about, oh, like every other day, Elijah's asking me for $20 for Fortnite. No, you get $20 and you decide for the week if you want to spend it on your Fortnite or if you want to go to Arby's. You know, you have to teach them.
Right. And allow them those critical like thinking moments because like for me, I think that's when me and my siblings, I think we can all attest to like that's when we learned, right? At one point, I always knew my dad was the ATM, right? So even if I didn't have a great relationship with him or I didn't talk to him as much as I would have liked to or whatever because of our schedules and stuff, right? I would ask my mother because I knew who my mother was gonna ask, right? So it was never no surprise. And not to say that my mom, didn't buy us stuff and stuff like that. But if I had a picture of my mind of like provider, like I looked at my dad as the ATM, and my mom did have a job, and she, and all that good stuff. But then we got a little older, and I remember us going school shopping one year, and we was like, yo, I want these Jordans, I want these Jordans, I want these clothes, I want this, I want this, I want this. And my dad, he was one of those like, why would you get this one pair of sneakers for $175? You could get 3 Nikes, you could get 3 regular Nikes for these. Like he was one of those, right? And then one day he got so like, I guess tired of it that he said, all right, y'all, here go $200 each, make it work. Right. And when I tell you we was in there like looking at price tags, like we was not looking at no price tags before. We had a bunch of clothes in our hand. Now all those clothes we had in our hand, those sneakers, like we looking at price tags. You like, I don't think I'll be able to afford this. Like, and so I think that what you said about, giving them the money and saying like, yo, you're not gonna get $20, $20, $20. You're gonna get this $20. And now you teach them critical thinking. You teach them how to handle money in small quantities. So now when he get a little older, and he start thinking and stuff like, you know what, I'm gonna keep my $20 this week, wait for my next $20, now I can buy a game, right? And now you allow them to learn principles of saving, spending, not spending it all in one place.
Exactly.
So I like that. I like that idea of giving them practical spending habits, and then also talking about like, our parents hiding a lot of stuff from us. Like, they were hiding it because they knew what it was like to struggle and the stress of being in a household that was struggling. I know a lot of people that grew up in the 80s, like my parents, and crack cocaine was out, and a lot of people started selling drugs
Yep.
because of stress of their family being broke, right? Like, those broke days, so now because of that stress, I think our parents hid a lot of that from us. And in turn, it didn't educate us.
Yeah, and
You
and
know what I'm
and
saying?
that's they back to the curses, because they think that they're
Bingo.
hiding it, but you know what's going on. So now when you having your kids, you think that you're hiding stuff from them, but they know what's going on, and it's just gonna continue repeating itself.
Exactly.
Right, right. So it's a healthy balance, right? I think that's the one thing that we kind of like came to a conclusion of, is that it has to be a balance, right? It's okay to, certain things your kid, don't need to know how much money is in your bank account, how much that you in, but they need to understand how this works, right? You probably don't need to give them $20 every time they ask for it, but if you give them $20 and explain to them you're not gonna get another $20 till here, you give them that opportunity to exercise that critical thinking and saying like, okay, I might use this for here, I might use this for now, and things of that sort. So I think that was a great thing, and I personally really learned a lot from that, because I ain't gonna lie, I could be a sucker sometimes. And if my son's doing good in school and he asks me for something 2-3 days in a row and the last 3 tests was 100, I might just get all 3 of them, right? But then when you think about it down the line, what am I really teaching him about money, right? So definitely has to be a healthy balance. Now,
You know,
Smitty, I want to ask you to reverse it.
I was going to say something.
Uh,
I was going to say something real quick. You was taught how to. Yo. Oh man.
I can hear you, Smitty.
No, okay. I can't hear you though. Damn.
Oh, okay. All right, so I'll come back to you. Just mute real quick. I'll come back.
I hear you right now, but damn, now I can't hear you no more.
Okay, good.
Damn, still can't hear you.
All right, so we'll come back to Smitty, but you know, I just wanted to go to the comments real quick, and just make sure that we're getting to all of our comments and all of the people that are viewing. So Davon said, we tend to do what we seen or was taught. We have to be mindful of our present behavior so it doesn't affect the next generation. And then Natalie said, that's a fact, Alicia. It can definitely skip a generation. They look at all adults, not just parents. Diamond said, you definitely do have to cut the dead ends off the tree, right? So, you know, pretty much like I like the consensus of like, you know, we have to be aware of our surroundings. You have to cut the dead ends, like, you know, and the engagement in the comments. So Key said it's easier said than done. It has to be a working progress. And then Natalie said, I'm asking daddy for the cash. So Natalie's my sister. So when I said that that, you know, my dad gave us a certain amount of money, she like, nah, I'm asking daddy for the cash. And she definitely did. I'm just gonna throw that out. Diamond said very much so. Natalie said, sorry, I was late. It's fine, don't worry about it. We're just happy that you're here. I really appreciate all of you guys' time and being here. Nikki said, kids are very smart and they listen to everything. Even when they're playing the game, their ears are listening, right? So I want to pause right there. I'm not going to read another comment before I say this. We as parents have to be mindful of that. These kids are listening. Like what you doing, if you arguing with Bay in the other room, they hear it. Like they hear it. I know I heard it. I could be in the room playing the game. I hear y'all arguing in the bathroom. Like y'all think y'all low, calling each other all MFers and all this other stuff. And no, they hear that stuff, right? And again, if you allow how you allow people to treat you in front of your child, they might grow up and think that that's how relationships, and when I say relationships, not just intimate relationships, but just relationships with people are supposed to be. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, my parents are in love and they curse each other out. So we ain't really in love until we start arguing like this, right? So now you create a toxic environment in your child's life and over things that they should have never heard. So kids are always listening, right? And then Natalie said, did you guys discuss the difference in curses and behavior? So we did touch on that earlier on. We didn't dive very deep in it, but we did touch on it. Smitty, are you back?
I'm here.
Good. So I want to ask you the other side of the question that I asked Alicia regarding you know, that wealth not being passed down. Now that we have this information and information is so available, like how important do you think it is that we do pass it down? And what are some key things, like when we're thinking about passing the knowledge about money and having a better relationship with money, what are some of the key things that you think that we have to pass down to our children?
One of the things I think we should pass down is the difference between making money and getting money. You hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So that's one thing we gotta understand. Like we was taught how to get money, not how to make money in an aspect. We always try to teach our kids, get out to get a job, do this, do that, instead of telling them how to stop, invest, prolong, invest, or everything like that. That we wasn't taught ourselves because we didn't have the knowledge. We gained the knowledge from other people, but not others. But as we got to work in other places, we started dealing with other races and other people who had the insight of how to do stocks, invest, ownership, and all the other good stuff, and we learned from them. and we have to pass that on to our kids so they can understand the same thing as well. They have to learn how to work for theirs and also to save and to have ownership.
Right, right. That is definitely true. Like key components, like, and I like what you said, like we were taught how to get money and not make money. Right. And one of the most influential people that I like to listen to is Eric Thomas. He's the #1 motivational speaker in the world. And he has a message where he gives an example about somebody asking him for money. And he was like, bro, with all due respect, if I gave you $20,000 today, you would come back to me 5 months later asking me for more money. And he said that, money doesn't
Exactly.
solve money issues. You need income, right? So we can get money, but you need income, right? So learning those different ways of income and not just saying like, I got to get it, I got to get it, I got to get it. Because my dad always taught me like, you're gonna spend it as fast as you get it, right? So if you get money and you're getting money and you don't have a source of income, it's possible that you're just gonna spend it that fast, or it's not gonna hold any value to you. And to another one of Smitty's points, being in different environments and seeing different races and how they own things, right? Like growing up, there was always in my neighborhood, because I lived in a predominantly Spanish neighborhood. Like in my neighborhood, Spanish people had the bodegas, and then the Indian people started coming in, and then the ox stores came in and stuff like that. So, like, and you see all these Chinese restaurants been around forever, right? And you see all these people owning different things. You might see like one black store owner, bar owner, or something like that. Like, so just being around different people, seeing what we can take from them, and really pass into our generation. So I want to go to one of our comments because it's very lengthy and I feel like it's something really good, right? So I want to get into one of our comments. Diamond said, "My biggest takeaway from dealing with or breaking generational curses is accountability. Accountability is optimal for change. People confuse awareness with accountability. Awareness doesn't bring action. People think just because they acknowledge the behavior that is enough. But what actions are you taking to change things you become aware of?" Diamond, I promise you, I'm guessing, Diamond, this your people's Alicia. It gotta be, right? We gonna talk. I need you on the next. I need you on the next one. I love that comment, right? Like I love that comment so much. Because
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good
I couldn't agree with it more, right? Awareness versus accountability, right? And we've been talking about identifying behaviors for like the last half an hour, right? We got to identify it so we can fix it, start the new link, right? But how many times have you seen someone say, all right, I'm an alcoholic, I'm a drug addict, I do this, I don't do this, or I do that, and it just be like, all right, well, I acknowledge that I did it, like, no, that's not it. Like, so Alicia, what do you think about awareness versus accountability? Like, how important is it that we're accountable and we're actually putting steps or putting different things into place to say, like, all right, I'm actually going to do something about it versus somebody just saying, like, yeah, I know I drink a lot. Like,
It's very important because now it's like now you're playing with it because now you're aware, but now you're not taking accountable for your actions. So now it's like making it kind of worse because now you're not trying to fix it, but you see what's it doing.
right. And honestly, it could really almost make it worse, right? Like, so if I'm the next generation and I hear somebody in my family, I hear my mom say, oh, and just as an example, like I hear my mom say, like, oh, I'm an alcoholic. I'm an alcoholic. Yeah, I know I'm an alcoholic, right? Like, yeah, I said it, I'm acknowledging it. But if I'm the onlooker, whether it's somebody, let's just say somebody I look up to, and I hear you confessing that, now in my mind, I heard you say it a bunch of times, but you're still that. So now what if I confuse that and say, okay, well, it's okay. Because this person's an alcoholic, that person was an alcoholic, that person was an alcoholic before that.
That's like saying, okay, I'm an alcoholic. Now I'm bringing my son in. Now we drinking together. Like,
Let's all be
like
Exactly.
let's all be. It has to cut off somewhere, and that goes to like the person too. You see that it's a problem. Now you go into your father's house or somebody, and y'all want to drink together. You be like, no, I'm not going to drink with you right now. How about you not drink when I'm with you? You have to try to stop it where it's at. At least know that you try to stop it where it's at, because
Right.
they have to take accountability for their actions and want to do it. Like I could tell them, do this, do this, do that. Oh, this is a problem in our family. It needs to be fixed. But if the person is content in their ways and don't want to fix it, then you did your part. So you know, all right, I did it. I told them this is the problem. This is what we need to work on. If they don't want to work on it, then you unlink yourself from them now. Now you're released. You did what you had to do. So now you be like, you know where you stand and where you got to go.
Right, right, definitely. And I think that it's really key for us to be accountable, like, and to actually put steps into play. Like that was my favorite part. Like what steps are you doing to change this? Like it's easy to just say like, yo, I do this. All right. But are you going to hold yourself accountable to change that? Right. So I think that was like really important. And I love that. Natalie said, poverty thinking. You can make 100 grand and treat that paycheck like you hit the lottery every payday, instead of spend, save, share, and secure. Right. So those are principles that, like, when you don't have a good relationship with money. I remember at one point when minimum wage was $7.25, right? You start making $15 an hour, you couldn't tell me I wasn't doing it. Like, $15, everybody 25, like, and then now, do you have that principle of spend, save, share? Like, or insecure? Like, do you have those money principles where you can hold on to money, or if there's a big purchase that you want to make, you can make those purchases, or are you just getting all your money, spending all your money? Like, are you teaching the next generation the value of saving, right? Like, not saving because we're gonna hold on to it forever, like we can't take it with us, but saving because emergencies happen, right? Teaching our kids those principles, saving because emergency happens, saving because big purchases, right? If you want to make a big purchase, like, I hear a lot of people with money, they say, if you can't buy something 3 times, you probably shouldn't buy it. Right? Like if you're gonna buy it and not have nothing.
Exactly.
Right. Natalie also said we need a healthier relationship with money. And she said, speaking of myself. And then Keith said, I think one thing we should teach our kids is to love themselves. Right. I think that's very, very important. And Smitty, just to take a pause for a second, like, do you feel like we're encountering a generation that has a lack of self-love?
Yeah, of course. I believe that people don't know the meaning of a need and a want. Everybody has this money in their hands. They want to buy. But you gotta know the difference between a need and a want. What you buying now, is it going to fluctuate years later on, or is it going to last forever? You gotta know the big difference between here and there. But the money situation goes back to, as we talked before, but the main topic today, business behavior or generation curse. We wasn't taught how to save money or how to spend money the proper way. We all know about, we get it, everybody has it. We spend it up, we give it here, we give it there, we generous, instead of putting it to the side and building something with it, or flipping it to stocks, investment, property, ownership. So it goes back to knowing the need of a need and a want.
Right. I agree with that. So we did go a little over 9, but it's because we started at 8:15. I'm not gonna, we started at 8:15, we at 9:15 right now. I'm not gonna keep you guys like too long. And so we're gonna wrap it up real soon. I just want to get to our comments because like I tell you guys a million and one times, like I value all of you guys' time. I appreciate all of our viewers, and I want everybody to be a part, and everybody's all of the comments that I can see, because I know at times I can't see all of them, but if I see it, I will read it, right? So if I don't read your comments because for some reason it doesn't come up until after the video, I don't know why, but I appreciate you guys' time. So if you guys are gonna comment and watch, I want to make sure that I get to your comments because it might help somebody. All right, so Natalie said accountability and accountability partners, someone you can be vulnerable with that will hold you accountable, right? So sometimes we need that. Like we can't do it all on our own. It's not to say that that person is responsible for you, but more so that this person has my best interest at heart so much that when I'm not doing the right thing or lacking, so to speak, like that person will step in and say, yo, bro, you better than this. Yo, sis, you better than this. Like, you know what the end goal is. You know what we talked about. This is what we, going towards. Because there are some days, let's just be honest, that we all just don't feel like it. Like we don't wake up thinking every single morning, yo, I gotta break the curse. Like we don't wake up like that every morning, right? But to have that person to say, yo, you're not really on your game right now, step it up. So I think, holding yourself accountable, but then also having that person for those off days that we might have is definitely vital. Natalie said right. And Natalie said there are support groups for the family members that do that. And then she said, Alicia, you are teaching today, sister. Nikki said, and the crazy part about trying to change or trying to fix a habit, people will take it as you think you're better than them and you're passing judgment, right? I think we've all seen that a time or two, right?
Yeah,
We've all seen that a time.
Back to what Nikki said, like people feel like, all right, I'm telling somebody this is a problem. And then that would start like a whole argument, or like just when you're trying to explain somebody like, oh, I think this is the problem in the family, or this is what's going on. That person, instead of like heaving to it, they take offense. When I'm like, I'm not trying to offend you, I'm trying to fix our family. And sometimes people, they so content, they don't want to do that. So like you said, you leave them where they at and you do what you got to do.
Right. And it really is like that sometimes. Like it really is like that, right? So just to get to our last topic so we can wrap it up, I don't want to keep you guys forever. How do we change the narrative, right? That's what I want to end off with. Like, how do we change the narrative? And there's no one clear-cut way to change the narrative, right? And that's why we have panelists here to share their opinions. I'll share my opinions. And I encourage you guys to share your opinions in the comments, because that might be what I need. That might be what my family needs. That might be what Alicia's family needs, or what Smitty family needs. Like, and this is what we're all here for, right? To try to put all of our brains together, give all our opinions, and talk about it. And your opinion could save a life, right? So how can we change the narrative? Like, so Smitty, I'll start with you. What are some ways that you think that we could change the narrative?
Well, one of the ways you could change the narrative is work on yourself first. You got to start from you. And then you know how if you're a magnet to other people, people will follow suit. You can't dictate what everybody else do. Worry about yourself at the moment. You can help from the sideline, but you get a little advice here and there, but start with you. And then everybody else will follow suit after that.
I think that is so dope, because when that brings me back to the reason why this podcast exists, right? Where I thought to myself, I said, in order to strengthen the collective, each individual has to be strengthened and grow, right? And that saying that says you're only as strong as your weakest link, right? I'm a part of the collective, right? The better I am, the better the collective is, right? So a better me equals a better we. If everybody becomes better individually, that makes us that much better as a collective,
And,
right?
and it's contagious.
So that's a right, and that's a great way to change the narrative of your generational behaviors. Is when you start changing and people see that, most people or a good number of people will follow and say, you know what,
You
I
got
think
to
I
be
want
the
to do this too.
example. You got to, how, what you want to
Right.
do,
Exactly.
you have to portray that. Like, I can't say I want to do this and I'm doing totally something different. I got to
Bingo.
walk how I want.
Right. That is so
It's
true.
like
Like,
practice. It's like practice what you preach.
yeah, yeah, right on the head. Right on the head. So, um, Alicia, what do you think is another way that we can start changing the narrative in our families? Like what are some things or a thing that we could do to try to like help our families move forward and change some of the negative behaviors? Because like we talked about, all of the generational behaviors aren't all negative, right? But the negative ones that we kind of want to stop, whether it's a habit or a particular thing that we do, or maybe a particular food that we eat that we know is not good for us. So, like, what are some things that you think that we can do to change the narrative in our families?
Conversation, like, people have to be able to talk about things without getting offended and get to the root of like the problems, to understand like, oh, this is why this is happening because of this, and then because you know the cause and effect, you can take out the cause, so now you're straight.
Right, right. I like that. Like, and communication is really key in almost every aspect in any relationship, whether it's family, um, intimate, like regardless of what work relationships, like you gotta communicate, right? One thing that
Oh,
I
Trey.
feel
Oh,
like
Trey. I
that
was gonna say one thing real quick. Real quick. You hear me?
yeah, go ahead, Smitty.
Yeah, I was saying that you also too gotta let shit go. Let it go. Let it go. All that animosity and hate and anger, let it go. And that's another way to start things off too, as well.
I
Definitely,
like
because
that.
yeah, because it takes more energy, more like you wasting time
Exactly.
harboring certain stuff. Just let it go.
I like that. And that really goes into my next point. Like, I really feel like, the communication piece. I think what we miss, right, a lot of times is there were a lot of gatherings once upon a time with a lot of different generations and a lot of different families, right? And when you miss out on those gatherings, you miss out on an opportunity to communicate, right? With all parts of your family, right? And then I remember times where people would come over, laugh, talk, have a great time, argue sometimes, but at the end of the day, we all still had that understanding, like we're family. It didn't make it past that day. Next Sunday or Saturday, whatever day it was, we was at our grandma house, like, you wasn't ready to scrap with nobody because you had an argument last week. That was last week's argument, and we were just here communicating, talking whatever issues out that we had. And I think talking to our children, which is, the next generation, creating that new link, I think that's another part of communication, is like we really got to make sure that we do that. We're talking to them about certain things, and talking to them about age appropriate things, right? And giving them that time to grow up. And, you're not my friend right now. Like, we can't be best friends, but I can tell you about this. I can teach you about this. And that's not to say that we can't have some sort of like friendly relationship, but I'm an adult, so you can't be my ace boon cool because I'm into adult stuff. Like, you're still a child. So, uh, just to run to our comments real quick, and then we are going to wrap up. So, Alicia said, "I love what you're doing. Thank you so much. Like, I really appreciate it. Uh, I can't even express, like, when I hear somebody say that they like what we're doing, I appreciate it. I just appreciate that we're doing something, and everybody that's a part of it, my panelists, we're doing something that's able to help somebody, right? He said, yes, we need to know that we are enough. Natalie said, real talk, Alicia, conversation, communications. Sometimes we don't need to talk about it because people have us on a pedestal. My life is an open book. If I can help you, leaving an inheritance for your family is not just money. My gift to my family is my life and my lifestyle, from where I come from to where I've been and where I am. So I think that that's very important, and you know that communication piece
Yep.
really seems key. Like you know, it's in a really a big key and making sure that these things don't carry on for more generations than they should. So our last question before we wrap up, Alicia, and I'll ask both of you guys this question: what can our children learn from our mistakes without reliving them?
They
Good
can
one.
learn everything, but you have to acknowledge the mistake, if you know what I'm saying, because all right, I did this wrong. So I'm telling my kid, I did this wrong. Like this is not what you want to do. This is how you should do it. So you have to acknowledge a mistake, figure out how to fix it in order to tell somebody else how to do it. Because if you don't acknowledge the mistake and you do acknowledge the mistake, but you don't know how to fix it. So now I'm teaching my kid the same thing, what I'm doing, and it's not okay.
Right, right. So acknowledgement is definitely key. Letting them know, like, yes, this is a mistake. And like you said, giving them different ways to get around it, right? Giving them that solution, right? So Smitty, like what are some ways that you think our kids can learn or how are some different ways our kids can learn from our mistakes, but without, you know, doing them themselves, like and reliving those mistakes?
Is piggyback to what Diamond said with her question was awareness and accountability. We gotta fess up and know when we wrong, we wrong. You know, a lot of our problem is we don't like to fess up to let people know that we wrong and the person is right. And awareness and knowing what we did as well as an aspect. We have to teach our kids what's right and wrong and awareness and accountability. And to get that on the same page with us and also them, that's when we can start the train ride to cutting this generation curse.
Right, right. Super dope. So it's a process, right? It's a process. And again, you know I bring this up, you know, a lot, but this is why comments, you know, I know we live in an age where comments and likes and views are important for different reasons, right? But in this particular atmosphere, right? I'm not talking about my profile picture. I'm not talking about what I posted, you know, before the podcast. In this particular atmosphere, like right now, during this live stream, during the next live stream, during the live stream before, your comments are so vital because your comments are as important to me as it is to you, right? We all learn and are able to piggyback off of each other in order to better each other as a collective. And just to go, you know, piggyback on what Alicia said, like conversation, right? This is an open platform, an open forum for us to have conversations, for us to bounce ideas off each other in order to better each other so we can become better as individuals. And then in turn, strengthen the collective and strengthen our community. So I'm going to go to our comments one last time, and then our panelists are going to give you guys their last words. Okay. So Diamond said, I love this podcast. Discourse about the betterment of our people is a beautiful thing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I really would love to have you on in the future, so we can definitely talk about that if you're open to that. Key said podcast is fire. Thank you so much. I'm definitely in the process of reading that book. And when I'm done, we'll definitely be talking about episode concerning that book that you sent me. So Nikki said a better me equals a better we. Definitely. Definitely every way that you think about it, all the way around. Uh, Natalie said, that's real, Alicia. Acknowledge it. Turn from the mistake or the lifestyle. Not allow that your children or anyone to use it as ammunition against you. Natalie said, preach, Smitty, accountability, acknowledgement, and accountability and acknowledgement. And then Jacqueline said, you have to have a teachable spirit. Definitely, right? I think we've all encountered an unteachable spirit, right? So we have to always remain teachable, even in old age, even when we master a skill. There's always something for us to learn. There's always a way that we can learn something a little bit differently. So we always got to remain teachable. Melissa said, my son and you guys are awesome. Love the people. I love the young people. Thank you so much, Mom. Melissa is my mom, but I address her as Melissa, so you guys know, who she is in the comments. But Melissa is my mom. So thank
Hi,
you,
Mom.
I really appreciate that. I'll start with you, Alicia. Anything you want to say to the people before we end this episode, or just how you felt about the podcast, like this episode, anything in general?
This episode was great, but what I would say to end it off, like I said, if you feel that you tried to fix it and it's not being fixed, break it off, start your own chain. Now you're the head. You just gotta lead by example of what you want to and how you want it to be.
I like that. Can y'all do me a favor? Hashtag in the comments. Hashtag start a new link. Start a new link. Hashtag start a new link. If you can't stop the behavior, if the behavior is unwilling to be changed, gotta break it off. Gotta break it off, because you don't want to pass the baton. You don't want to pass a messy kitchen. Somebody ever told you to come cook in their kitchen and it was dirty? Like you don't want to pass that kitchen over to somebody. Like you don't want to do that. So if you got to start a new link, you got to start a new link. So hashtag start a new link. Right? Smitty, anything you want to say to the people before we get out of here?
Well, I want to say to everybody out there, start from self-love. Start from within, then everybody will follow. They see how you move in a certain way, everybody will want to join the train. You have to do it within. It takes a village as well, but it starts from you. Be the first person to start it.
Definitely. The change I want to see must first begin in me, like in me. The hardest thing in this world to change, besides my son's diaper, is other people. Like, that's the hardest thing in the world to change is other people. Like, good luck doing it. Like, if you are a person that knows how to change other people, like, I don't know. Like, that's just
Good luck.
really interesting.
Good luck.
Right, good luck. Like I've never encountered anyone that could do it. I've never seen it done before, right? So you got to look inwardly, like, and when you do it for yourself, and when people see it's good, the right people, right? Not just anybody, the right people will follow, right? So it got to start with us, right? And if you got to start that new link, then let it start with you.
And sidebar, change don't happen overnight. You gotta be able to be like, okay, I'm gonna fix this. It's not gonna happen right away, but so you think, all right, I talked to my mom or somebody about this, it's fixed. No, it's gonna take a process to fix it.
Exactly.
Hey, that's a word. Woo, 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 woo. Rome was not built in a day. The world, and
Exactly.
me and Smitty said this off air. He said Rome wasn't built in a day, and the world wasn't even built in a day. It took 7, right? So, I mean, it's not going to happen overnight, right? We can't expect to break a behavior that has been passed down from generation to generation to generation to generation in a month, in a week, right? Sometimes it takes a little longer than that. In some cases, you might get an instance where, it might be a way that it changes a lot quicker. But I mean, in most instances, like something that's been going on for years and years and years, it takes a little bit of time, right? So we got to be okay with that. We got to understand that this is going to take a little bit of time, but we got to stick in, do what we got to do, because I'm not handing my son a dirty kitchen. I'm not handing my nephew a dirty kitchen and telling him to go cook a feast, right? And that's what we're going to do to the next generation if we're not able to acknowledge and hold ourselves accountable and be able to talk about those things and make that change within ourselves, so we can be better, right? So I appreciate all of you guys for viewing. I say this all the time. You guys could have been anywhere else, like anywhere else. Like you could have been laying on your couch, liking pictures, scrolling up your timeline, watching videos on YouTube, but you decided that you
Playing
wanted,
PlayStation.
right, playing PlayStation, right, Fortnite or whatever, right? You could have been doing whatever, but you made a decision on your Tuesday night after you just got off of work to say, hey, listen, I want to tune into this podcast. And I appreciate you guys so much, right? Because you could have done anything else, but you made a decision to tune in. So I appreciate you guys. Secondly, I appreciate all of you guys' comments. Like I've said repeatedly throughout this episode, your comments mean so much to me because I'm a learner, right? So I take all these comments, even when I read them, I think about them afterwards, right? I go through the comments when this is over and I say, all right, I can take this, or I can take that. I can use this. I like this, like, and not just myself, but other people, right? As you guys are interacting with each other in the comments, you're noticing like, oh, wow, like this person, you're helping this person, you're helping that person. So guys, just continue to be active in the comments because it helps, right? Lastly, I want to end it off by saying, because I know I kept you guys way longer than I said I was going to keep you guys. I want to end off by saying, with sort of a paraphrase of a quote that I heard of a motivational speaker. He said, for me, this is so important, like being on this live stream, having this podcast, because of the nature of the podcast, a better me equals a better me. Better me equals a better we. It's so important for me because whoever's listening, whoever took the opportunity to listen, whoever took the opportunity to share, whoever watches this in the future, I have the opportunity, or you have the opportunity to make a change, right? There are people in jail right now that are doing life in jail, right? And if they watch this podcast or listen to this podcast, they don't have all of the options that we have in order to affect change in their life. But I have the luxury of being able to talk to people right now live that are interactive in our comments, and we have the opportunity to change each other's lives. Each episode, like regardless of what the topic is, we have the opportunity to change each other's lives going forward. And I may not be able to teach you a new skill. I may not be able to do something that you've never done before, but we can kind of shift and give each other a new way to think about something. So I take this very seriously and I really appreciate you guys. So thank you again. This wraps up A Better Me Equals a Better We, episode 5, Generational Behaviors, right? And I just want to say thank you guys for tuning in. Thursday, you guys will have the illustration for your next episode on Tuesday, as well as your panelists. So I'll see you guys again next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And just remember, a better me equals a better we. All right. See you guys next week.
There y'all.